Now, our discussion here, and joining us will be Bill Kristol, now a political analyst here at ABC News. Bill, welcome. Nice to have you.
David.
Can anyone here remember when a non-candidate, a possible future candidate, maybe has attracted as much attention as General Powell? Can you remember?
No, Henry Cabot Lodge
Cuomo.
came close. Henry Cabot Lodge was our ambassador in Saigon. He was a write-in candidate in New Hampshire and beat Barry Goldwater.
But there was a lot of this will he, won't he speculation about Mario Cuomo.
I remember that well, my dear. I remember it well.
You were leading it, as
The
I recall.
Hamlet of the Hudson up there teasing us all.
Bill, you haven't got your feet wet here yet. What do you think about that?
Well, it's pretty striking to have a non-candidate run first in a national poll of Republican primary voters. And I do think it shows dissatisfaction with the current field. And there's a sense, as Mayor Giuliani said, if Powell doesn't get in, it's Dole's to win. And fairly or unfairly, an awful lot of Republicans aren't thrilled with the prospect of a Bob Dole presidency.
Do you have a choice you wish to express here? You want to get on the record?
No, I think and I've argued that conservatives need to think seriously about Powell, that a victory by Powell, running as a moderate Republican who nonetheless was committed to basically advancing the Gingrich agenda, the agenda of 1994, the Republican agenda that's now in Congress, that if Powell won a big victory committed to that agenda, you could really deepen the realignment. If Powell brings in 30 Republicans to follow Newt Gingrich,
But
and
he's
5 or
spoken
10
of the contract
senators,
already. It's a little too harsh, a little too mean.
Well,
I mean,
but he's spoken of it again.
But a lot of Americans-
He revised and extended those comments.
well, but those comments are on the record, and he's not going to be able to revise to extend them away unless he wants to flip-flop. And if this general begins flip-flopping,
Then
he's going to lose a lot of us.
I agree with that, but you know, a lot of Americans and a lot of Republicans are nervous about parts of the contract. I mean, I personally like it, and I'm happy to have a harsh and mean contract with America. But Powell is not out of the mainstream of America in that respect, and the case to be made for him from a conservative point of view is that you need to bring along a lot of moderates to make this revolution work.
You think the mainstream of America is harsh and mean?
No, I think the mainstream of America suspects that some Republicans are a little harsh and mean, and you do need moderates to come along to make this a lasting realignment.
Mr. Kristol,
George, come in.
Bill says, look, a lot of Republicans are not thrilled about Bob Dole, leaving aside the question of whether thrill ought to be a category in our politics. The question is, what is thrilling people about Colin Powell? Now, the dignity of politics, it seems to me, varies directly with the idea content of it. And in the Powell phenomenon so far, don't you have the highest ratio of celebrity to enthusiasm and the lowest ratio of ideas to enthusiasm?
I think celebrity is a little unfair. I think you have the highest ratio of sort of appeal for interest in the man's personal character as opposed to attachment to his ideology. But when we elect a president, we want two things: someone who agrees with us and someone we admire. Powell obviously is going to run as someone whom many Americans respect and admire and think would be a good leader of the country. People aren't going to vote for him as an ideological leader.
Is dignity a winning platform?
Sorry?
Is dignity a good way to win?
It's not a platform. It's a nice attribute, a good attribute, but it's not a platform. Mayor Giuliani spoke of Colin Powell in terms of leadership, but leadership implies you're going somewhere you can point out.
But he's clearly, George is going to point out, if he becomes a candidate, he's going to have to answer your 22 questions, your additional 22 questions, whatever number of questions you wish to propound, and he will answer them in a way that we will divine what his platform is. You're exactly right. If he has no plan for the country other than we should be better to each other and we should be a family, I think we all agree with that.
That is what people want to hear.
Yeah, but that doesn't get us from A to Z. What gets us there are the budget, the qualifications, the provisions, the regulations.
Nobody has
and his
ever
plan.
voted for president in history on the question of the budget. I mean, people vote for president on qualities of leadership. They vote for, I mean, you've interviewed 3 trillion voters saying it, as I have. We vote the man, not the party. They're people who are interested in somebody whose judgment is such that they can trust him to go along with what they fundamentally would feel comfortable with, no matter what issues come up in the next 4 years.
Let's accept Kochi's terms for why people vote for anyone for president. How does Colin Powell fit into that pattern?
At the moment, he fits into it very comfortably for a lot of people, but they need to know more about him before they find out
Cokie,
whether he does.
I
But the
agree.
kinds of things that can hurt him, I don't think is so much, you know, having a big issues conversation. I think is what can hurt him is if he gets flip-floppy in any way and seems to be pulling back or trying to attract some kind of
we vote for the
special
individual.
interest.
We vote for the personality. We vote for someone we trust and we like. And maybe if they're good on television these days, we vote for them for that reason. But in 1968, we voted for Richard Nixon because it had a secret plan to end the war. He didn't have a secret plan to end the war. And I think people are not going to, on big issues, they're not going to take Colin Powell saying, look, I can settle the budget issue, and I can return us to non-deficit spending, and I can take care of the deficit. Trust me. Yeah, that
Well,
won't work.
I don't. Colin Powell is no Richard Nixon. I think we could all agree on. We can all agree on that. Look, there would not be a lot of interest among Republicans in Colin Powell if Republicans had not won the Congress in '94. If Republican voters weren't convinced that the Republicans will keep the Congress in '96, and therefore have a certain amount of confidence that the legislative agenda will continue to move in the right direction, that Newt Gingrich will be Speaker of the House, and that the trend is basically going to be in a Republican and conservative direction. What that puts, therefore, in Republican primary voters' minds is the notion of, well, maybe we get the best of both worlds. You have a Gingrich legislative agenda, and Powell, a man you admire, for president. No, it's not a matter of winning. I'm just saying that whether people like it or not, I think the reason Powell is now attracting a lot of Republican voters is they think that the ideological impetus is coming and will continue to come from Congress. If Republicans hadn't won Congress in '94, this whole race would be shaping up differently.
What would be his purpose, Bill?
Sam, hold on. Before we go and ask each of you this question, do you think Powell is going to run?
I'm still skeptical.
Sam?
As I said last week, and every time
Say it
you
again.
pound it, yes, I think he's going to run.
Cokie?
Probably.
What do you think?
What is probably? Wait a moment.
I'm with
Hold
Cokie.
on.
Cokie and I are profiles in courage. Cokie and I are profiles in courage.
Hold on, brave
That's
ones.
stronger than I don't know, but it's weaker than yes.
All right.
Okay.
I think he will not run. Now, we'll be back. I need to interrupt here briefly, and we'll be back with more of our discussion in a moment.